Good evening, welcome to the Goffstown Planning Board. This is a regular scheduled meeting, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Kimberly, would you like to lead, sir?
Sure.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome back, Kimberly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, we'll start with our two newly elected members, Phil Devanza and Kimberly Peace. They have both been sworn in, so they are going to be voting members tonight. Joanne, could you start the list of housekeeping items, please? Excuse, before you do that, we'll start with the minutes from March the 12th and get them out of the way.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Anybody have any changes or questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
I
Motion
abstained
passes.
because I wasn't there.
All right. And Dave, you'll be voting on all matters tonight because Bear Freeman is not here tonight.
Thank you.
All right, so we had one abstention. Okay, we have signed appointment papers appointing Tim Searles to the EDC. Now, I believe we needed to make a motion, and did we take care of that at the last meeting?
You did it the last
Okay,
meeting.
good.
So we just have to pass those around?
Yes.
So I will start with my signature. And do we have need a motion for this itself, Joanne?
No, you don't need to do that.
We'll go that way.
There are
and-
two, Tim.
Excuse me?
There's two signatures.
There's two.
Oh.
Do I sign even though I wasn't here for the motion last time?
Probably not.
You still get on.
Phil, we'll get you to sign in, so it only got to go
You're
one
not
way.
out of it.
Okay, what is the next one on the list?
The next one is the election of chair and vice chair.
Okay, so have the floors open for nominees for the next term for the planning board to be the chair.
I nominate Tim Redmond to be chair for the next term.
Second.
You don't need a second for nomination.
It's just, are there any other nominations from the floor?
Right.
Any other nominations? Seeing none, we'll close the nominations. All those in favor of Tim Redmond continuing as chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Okay, we need a nomination for vice chair.
Did you want to sign it? I'll sign it at some point in time, whether it's here tonight or when the papers come across our desk.
I did not know that the select board members signed our officer papers,
What does it do?
because we're the elected
You have
planning
your
board
own
members.
meetings.
I didn't know if there was a line in the sand there, Phil, that's why I didn't ask.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
She's a voting member, so she knows the process.
I nominate Kimberly Peace for vice chair.
Any other nominations? Do I have a second? We don't need one, we don't need a second.
Kim had graciously volunteered to be vice chair, but since Kim has been on the board before and has more experience, you
Makes sense.
nominated Kim.
Okay, all those in favor of Kim Peace being our vice chair for the upcoming year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So the CIP appointments
Did we
next?
let the vice chair know that there were open space duties that came with being vice chair?
I briefly spoke with her.
I'll speak to her later about that.
Okay.
Yes, so we have
I
two
see.
people who have volunteered to be on CIP, Jim Raymond, and I'm sorry, I don't know the other man's last name. His first name is Davis. He's
Alan, it says here on the nomination
He's
papers.
currently a member of the ZBA. And so if you appoint them tonight, we do have their appointment papers there. You can sign at the same time and get it over with.
Does David
And-
sign the appointment for Tim as an alternate?
He's representing,
Voting, he can, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And also, if anyone else wants to join CIP, Tim, I thought you might want to. We are starting our meetings this year a little late. We're starting June 4th. Because there is going to be a meeting. Once I find out more information, I'll let you all know, probably through email. The state DOT is going to be presenting the corridor study for Route 114 that they've been working on for a while. and it will be in this room on, I believe it's the it's a Thursday, I believe it's the 23rd of April at 6 o'clock. And the DOT will be here to present and answer any questions.
Were
What is
they in
that on
touch
the
with you
23rd?
about that study at all?
No, I've not seen it.
I don't think they reached out to us at all about it.
What is this?
Remember a long time ago, there was funding for the Route 114 corridor study, and initially it was supposed to be just for Bedford, and then Goffstown got
But it
involved
extended.
and asked if it could be extended.
Yeah,
So
because
I had asked,
114 and 114A intersection is not great in the afternoon.
when I started here, I had asked if they could actually extend it up to Henry Bridge Road, and they said yes, but again, I haven't seen it. I do have the man's name, I could contact him and ask him
I
if
mean,
we
at
could
this
get
point,
a
the study's
copy
done,
ahead of
so.
time.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's not,
Well,
but it's not, it's something that they still have to vote on, and still has to go through the whole process. I'll see if we could get a draft, so we
That'd be
could
great,
look at it
yeah.
ahead of time.
What is that, on the 23rd?
Yes,
Friday,
it's
second.
April 23rd at 6 o'clock here.
That'll be a hard burner.
Do you know William Rose? That's who,
I do know William
That's
Rose, yeah.
William Rose?
that's who, at the DOT, his name is William Rose. I don't know if he's Mark Rose's.
Community division.
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to be do stuff with LPA. It's been a
Yeah.
long time since I worked with him.
Oh, yeah.
but I don't
Yeah,
know
he's
where
been
he's
around
still
for a
in
long
that
time.
position.
What time was that?
6 o'clock,
6 o'clock.
All right.
You said May 23rd?
April.
April.
Joan,
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I take that back, it's May. I think it's the 23rd, it's the
Why don't you send us an email?
It's the
Just stop talking and
third
send us an
Thursday,
email.
it's definitely a Thursday.
May 23rd is a Saturday, so
It's not May 23rd. May 21st?
the 21st is the
Okay,
Thursday.
that's it. Too many things to remember.
I will not be here on a Saturday.
All right, we have two notice of appointments for CIP in the community at large position.
Motion to approve.
James Raymond, 336 Blackbrook Road. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Davis Allen, 1 Mountain Ash Lane.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Mountain Ash Lane?
Yeah, never heard of it.
Why do I not know where
Mount,
that
Up in the condos off.
off of College, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that.
Joanne, do we have any
complex.
more,
Highland, is that
So
Highwood or
Tim would
Highland?
like to be appointed to CIP as well, so if you want to
Mountain
make
Ash is
that
the big-
motion, and then we'll have the paperwork for you at the next meeting.
Do you want to do it when we have the paperwork? Or you want to appoint him without the
Patty
paperwork?
would like
it's a
the
private
appointments
road.
taken
Motion to
care of so
approve,
she can
Joanne
start
is
setting up
chairman,
the
CIP.
paperwork for the meetings.
What was the motion, Phil?
Motion to approve Jim Raymond as chairman of CIP.
Jim doesn't want to be chair of CIP.
I think it has to be a planning board member. I think that's in the rules of CIP.
Didn't you say Tim?
Jim Raymond
He
does
just
not
said
want to
Jim
be
Raymond.
chairman. I had to practically.
I will definitely chair that.
No, you won't. I'm chair of that.
Okay, so are you the
And
person
that one.
volunteering to be the extra planning board member?
I've always been on CIP. Why do I have to volunteer? Been on
Because
it-
you have to be appointed by this board.
All right, I choose to be on CIP again.
Motion to approve chairman Tim.
Off
Okay.
East Plummer or off of College?
So, excuse me, St. A's.
Yeah, it's same, it's
Yeah,
same
it's a
age.
private road, that's why.
No,
I'm
we
That's
have-
why you didn't know what it was. Yeah, it's to all
Okay.
those apartments up there.
All those in favor of myself chairing CIP again this year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Now, do we have another position that Tim could serve on at CIP as a planning board member? Tim Searles, aren't we allowed to have 2 CIP members?
Yes.
Chair, planning board members on
As long as
CIP?
you don't have a quorum.
Right,
Yeah, so there's no other planning board member on CIP.
okay,
Right.
so I'd like
yes, he
to,
can
I'd like
be
to make a
on there.
motion that Tim Searles be appointed to
So moved.
CIP.
What'd you say, Phil?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstention? None. So does that clean up all of our housekeeping,
The
Joanne?
only thing is the last item was whether you want to schedule a hearing, but why don't we go through it first and see where you.
For the
Hearing
development
what?
regs.
Yeah, but let's,
Well, I don't
you
think
know.
we're gonna have a hearing then, but I have some questions I'd like to ask. Maybe you might need to work on it. Okay. Anything else before I move on to the agenda, which is workshop? Seeing none. Okay, how do you want to proceed with this, Joanne? Do you want to, I'm gonna let you handle the, this part of the meeting tonight, because you know what sections we're turning to and all that kind of good stuff, so I turn it over to you, Joanne.
Okay, so at meeting a few months ago, you had asked that we do a comparison between the current development regulations from 2015 and the ones that we have in front of you. And Scott was able to use AI and do the comparison, and they printed out this sheet. So we have, starting with, there's items that cover the overall document, there's a summary in the very beginning, and then there's different sections of the document that have comments within. So we can just go through this starting on page 1.
Why would we do that? Why don't we go through if anybody has any questions after looking at this, because this got handed out at the last meeting, it got sent to us. It was an amazing comparison. It talked about the structure, how the structure had changed, the expanded definitions. It said the application procedures were heavily rewritten, the subdivision and site plan requirements were adjusted, roadway and driveway, basically the whole thing was adjusted, water quality and stormwater, security guarantees were expanded, enforcement violations and penalties were expanded. There were major additions unique to the 2024 draft. I've got some comments when we come to that. And then there was a list of things that got removed, including, remember, the great Certified Sites program that was bouncing around everywhere years ago that I don't think we've ever even used in this
Southern
town.
New
So they
Hampshire.
really
Yeah,
cleaned
I
up.
wasn't even like aware of what that was until I actually dug into all of
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
What, that thing, the site-ready thing we put in?
Yeah,
Well, it's part of the Southern New Hampshire planning.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's,
Wait,
that's been wiped clean of their website, because when I got into it, I was like, oh, it's Southern New Hampshire planning. I go and search their website.
It's because
it's
anybody
not
who
there.
did it, they continue to use it. It was one of those great planning ideas that was gonna get everybody with pre-permitted sites that people could just come in. So I will ask before we go, because Tim's got some questions which probably should be addressed first. You sent out with the package, Joanne, the development regs effective date November 2024 with the draft second draft October 25. I didn't go off of it, but we had a previous handout of development regs that looked exactly the same on the cover, but was substantially shorter. Do you remember what?
Shorter?
Yes, like as in, was this only the change pages? Maybe that's what it was.
I think that's what it was.
Oh, yes, that was all.
Okay, all right.
So
okay.
what I've incorporated, everything is into this.
So
package now.
so this is the one I went off of.
And I
It's a
didn't put
separate document.
today's date or
It's like
the
that.
date
Well,
that
I'm
I
gonna bring up
did
all
Yeah,
it,
that's fine.
printed it,
I'll
because
figure out
I'm
where-
fine.
we haven't done
Oh, it's
anything
not
to
in-
it
it's
since
not in
then,
here.
since the October,
If the board
November,
wants to
Okay,
see
this
it,
was
or
the one I
actually
got.
October
Right.
20
Well, I'll talk about it,
2025.
and then you can tell me if I'm in the wrong.
So I just left the date the same.
Okay, all right, thank you. So as far as.
So how, are we gonna just sort of field anybody who has anything they'd like to talk about, rather than go through the whole routine? Is that
This
what
is
we're?
why, yes, because the development regs have never gotten done, because every time we start to go through it specifically, we never get anywhere. So we've all had an opportunity to look at it. We have a great AI example of a comparison, so.
I did back check that too, by the way, and added a couple things.
Okay.
Not a ton, but.
All right, I have two things that I would like to have the board consider. First thing is in our landscape requirements for a new application, which requires that the applicant provide us with a landscaping plan showing where the trees are going to be located, and then they have to do a list of the types of trees and then they put on the 10-year growth circle as a condition of approval for a plan to get ultimately approved and signed. I think we're far too generous with the growth circles. I think we should amend our development regulations so that we do not permit 10-year growth circles. I think we need to move that way back. Maybe a 2-year growth circle or something else, because it's been grossly inadequate for landscaping purposes. And I have several examples that I can think of. I can think of the gas station at the end of the Goffstown Back Road, the new gas station at the end of Tower Lane. We talked about the headlight wash from the gas pumps shining on the homes across the street. We were presented with a landscaping plan that was going to subdue the headlight wash. Every time I drive by there and I look at the 24-inch plants that are growing there, it's not doing what it was supposed to do on the plan. We look at the YMCA was a trouble spot for us for a long time with headlight wash on the neighbors across the street. So what I do is I look at the beautiful market basket screening that the town of Bedford required that they put on their market down at the corner of 114 and I guess that's Boynton Street, I think, or, okay, Boynton Street. And they did a very complete, what, or Donald Street maybe? Maybe that's Donald Street.
Boynton is
It's
down
Donald.
The light,
at
Donald Street.
101.
The corner of Donald Street and 114. They were required to do a beautiful planting job with intermingled trees, and the day they planted the trees, they had screening and they had headlight line protection for all those buildings. So I would like to see us tighten up our development regulations on landscaping requirements where we permit them to have a 10-year growth ring as the acceptable norm for approving a landscaping plan. So I'm going to open that up for discussion among board members.
I am fine. So Appendix G, which is in the new, the big development regs that was mailed out, page 96. There wasn't anything specifically noted in the rewrite. Do you know whether they just took ours and redid them? Because the lack
Barbara,
of,
we have a different page 96.
because you're looking at the, are you looking at the abbreviated?
I'm looking at the one that was passed out tonight. I believe.
What?
No, this
I've
is,
had this one for a while.
no, this is the one I've had for a long time.
You
Yeah,
want the
that's-
one that was passed out,
The
A
one
while
that was
ago.
passed out.
It came in our packet.
This tonight's version.
yeah. That's page 96, that's what I have.
Thank you. Sorry, Barbara. Interrupt
Okay,
you.
that's why I sort of clarified what the old one
Share
was.
it.
So,
It's different than this.
I didn't see anything in the AI summary on this stuff, and I'm having to scan through this to find out when what the 10-year circles are, because they are pretty ridiculous. So I guess my question is, Joanne, do you know whether they substantially revised this, or did they just take ours and put it as a supplement in this format, if you know?
They completely revised it, and so they do work for a lot of other towns, and so they used what they knew that other towns were doing, and they kind of brought our standards up to par with the other communities.
So this isn't just a restructuring of our landscape requirement, our current landscape?
No.
Okay. And I'm looking for what has to appear on the plans, and I'm not,
I think we allow it to happen because they do their tree count. And then they show us where it's going to grow at the end of the time frame, even though we do not specify that we do not allow a 10-year growth circle. So I think we have to insert some language that tells the developer what growth circle will be acceptable for a plan. When you're doing the counts, the tree, the plan with the tree. So,
Would the type of tree also affect how far they should be apart? In other words, if you're using that as a generic a calculation figure, depending on the trees though, would they have an effect on, let's say, could there be a detrimental effect
Well, I would say we have a waiver process for them to present to us that the trees would be detrimental to the circles that we required because they're gonna harm the tree as it grows into each other. I mean, the only trees that actually provide screening are evergreens, really. Because anything that's deciduous, they want it cut up high enough that they can mow under them. And you don't get screening with a tree where the canopy is raised up 8 feet from the ground. That's not a screening tree. That's a decorative tree or something you would have in the site. I'm talking specific to screening.
All right, so if I look at the draft that they did on page 97, the bottom, it says plant material, because that's the only time that you really get into specifics in this. And it talks about ultimate height. So it talks about ultimate heights, and then it has then for new plant material, the minimum plant sizes and conditions to satisfy the requirements of the reg. So, B.
So typically you see something about plants being installed on OC, on center. So that's what, Tim, that's what you're talking about, the
There is an
plant has like a
on-center.
10-foot circle around it. And so they're not close enough.
Yeah, because the
And-
10-foot circle is, they touch the circles, Kimberly?
Right,
But
right.
when the tree is planted, that's what the tree actually is, right there.
Right, but I guess, I agree with you, Barbara, we don't see any reference to the 10-foot circles, so we actually we don't give a density in here. We give minimum initial planting size, and we give the plant size definitions for ultimate height, but we actually don't define the density. And so is there something we need to add?
Well, that's what I was working on, adding language that
Yeah.
informs the applicant of what the board wants. If the board wants.
Tim,
Go.
one of the things that's always come up with me though, on the screening, I brought it up a couple of times, but I never really, push it because I'm not, a landscape designer. But rhododendrons, my understanding of them and what I've seen of them, they do very good for screening. They grow into each other, and nobody brings them in. I mean, they do flower, but I mean, you go up places and the way they grow into each other, they stagger them and they grow in. You can't even.
I know, but they take a long time to grow.
It might also be cost prohibitive for developers who don't want to spend a lot of money on plantings. If we allow other plantings that are less expensive to be put in their place.
Well,
Don't really use fall off of those, isn't it?
No, the roadies keep
Roadies keep
their
year-round?
leaves. Absent the north wind and the winters, they keep their
Right.
leaves.
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like the regulations changed much looking at the current one versus the new one.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a lot of, I thought I saw something on center in here, now I can't find it. So, Joanne, I think an email needs to go to the drafters of this section to find out exactly what were the changes in the actual requirements, and is there common, and should there be a requirement to show on the plan the growth?
I don't think they changed much of anything looking
Yeah,
back
I
and forth.
don't, yeah, Joanne, I'm not, I appreciate that that's what they told you, but I don't know that I'm seeing really anything else.
They may have wording in a Bedford document or something that they can borrow and help us achieve the goal.
Well, I think at this point, we're done with them, aren't we? We've
Pretty
used up
much.
that contract.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
on us to do any of the
Who was
changes
that with, Hoyle Tanner?
Well,
Yeah.
Tanner.
All right, well,
So
Which that's-
what is shown here as far as like, say, for instance, shade trees, a minimum of 3 inches in diameter at 4.5 feet above grade, that, you're not looking for something like that?
that is not a screening tree.
Okay, so say
Those are
here,
ornamental trees.
evergreen, a minimum of 6 feet in height. So that has always been, as long as I've been here, is at full growth.
I think we need to have a
That's
section.
not planting. And I know there have been back and forth conversations on that. I remember when, I think it was Verizon or one of the cell people came in for that tower on Church Street, and it went back and forth about the trees and how tall they would be at planting and, for on the Blondo's property. But it needs to be specific if you want to see it at planting versus full growth.
Okay, we talked about, the word screening is mentioned in section E on page 99 of the one that was in the packet tonight. E1 is landscaping and/or screening materials. That's the only place, and then says the same thing. It only talks about line of sight. So maybe we can,
Well, it says that there is minimum standards for screening on page 97.
okay,
Right, that's what I was just looking at.
A new paragraph would fit better there.
that's right. I think we should have somebody at staff level compose a paragraph that simply and states regarding what we expect for separation between proposed trees at planting. If we were going to allow a maximum separation of 3 feet or something to give time to grow together without actually planting them touching so that they're, when they do grow together, they hurt each other. But we need to come up with something in that.
Arborvitae doesn't hurt each other when they grow into each other,
No,
right?
no, they love each other.
Don't they kind of, you can turn them into a wall, basically?
Well, that's what they've done in a lot of places.
I planted 28 arborvitae that were 4 feet high. They're now, the individual bushes are 6 feet in diameter, 20 feet high,
How long did that take?
10 years.
Oh, there's the circle.
Right, your 10-year circle.
6 feet?
So, Scott, are you willing to try to come up with a paragraph for us?
Well, Joanne, why don't you take a look at Bedford or Hooksett?
Okay.
Well, you can consult with Scott then before
Yeah,
he
we
goes
can,
and
we
does
can,
it.
we can,
I feel
work
more
together.
comfortable having
Each other.
Scott write about pavement.
We can work together.
Okay, now is there any more discussion on this, or are we going to turn it over to staff at this point?
I think staff.
Okay. The second thing I would like to bring up about screening is that we hold a lot of applicants' feet to the fire and make them plant the numbers that are required in order to achieve the specific numbers that the development reg place forward for the square footage of the site.
Right.
In the past, we've let people use the existing trees on the sides of their properties for screening, and those people get a free pass from that screening requirement, whereas we burden other applicants with purchasing trees and planting trees and shrubs. I think that's an unfair practice, and I think we should be looking at making it more fair.
But I think the reason that you do that is because some sites are already very treed and screened with various materials or
Joanne, right up
possibly
until they
fence.
cut them down because they want to do something.
Well, if you have it on the plan as the tree line must remain, then they shouldn't cut it down. If they do, they should be getting.
I am a little, I'm a little burned when we sit here and we tell this applicant over here that they gotta spend $75,000 on plantings for trees to meet our requirements, and then we tell this applicant on this side over here that, oh yeah, you've got a bunch of trees around the outside of your property. I think that you can get away with it.
On page 98, it says there are standards for existing trees to satisfy the requirements, so it seems like it's written in here that if the existing trees don't meet these minimum requirements, they're not applicable to be counted.
Which number is that, please?
It looks like B2,
Yep.
existing trees.
Okay, thank you. So it talks about having ornamental trees and evergreen trees. So it sounds to me like they need to be in place, or am I not reading that correctly?
So the way I read it is if there are existing trees that you're allowing to meet the requirements, they have to be of these sizes based on the different types of trees.
And I think on a couple of the applications, they have counted out the trees that they are leaving as going towards the numerical calculation.
We just had someone come to TRC this week that it's gonna be a home business that they need a site plan for, and it's a beautiful home. And I actually told them, I was like, you can probably get credit for a lot of the landscaping you have in your front yard, so I apologize for doing that now, but it's a very, like, well-kept home.
You said
so-
probably, you didn't promise.
But it's in our regulations.
But what it says is that, you know, if you're gonna use them, they have to be
A
this.
certain size, right?
These aren't like the tree line between them and their neighbors, this is like landscaping that they had previously done, so I think it kind of, it's a better situation than I think what you're,
Well, there's
referring
two
to.
different, well, I mean, we were talking about screening, and now we're on to landscaping. They're
Yeah.
two different things.
Right. All right, so Scott, are you willing to work on this with Joanne and try to come up with
Yeah,
some sort of a paragraph to add
yep.
into the appropriate section?
And so are we gonna adjust the existing tree statements, or are
No, I
are
think
you
we're-
back on the screening
I
sizes?
think on the minimum standards for screening,
Okay.
you need to insert a paragraph F that states that the maximum allowable distance between trees that are being provided for screening, based on the selected variety, is gonna be a number. 3 feet, 4 feet, pick a number, but 10 feet is far too much for us to approve for a new plan, because the day that they plant them, there is no screening for the next, well, if they live 10 years. Half the time, the stuff that dies on our projects never gets replanted because we don't have, like, tree police to run around and look at
We
all
don't
the
have code
properties.
enforcement.
Well, in Hooksett, they make them post a bond for 2 years.
You know?
And if the trees die within that time, the town
Is
takes the
that
money.
one of
and-
the provisions in the bond posting in the new development regs?
Has anyone noticed
Not for
the
that.
trees on that lovely mound
Oh,
changing
yeah.
color?
They're dead.
Yeah,
You mean down in Penardville?
yeah.
The one that we just talked about at the
Yeah.
prior meeting? Okay,
Mhm.
well, I'm assuming you're gonna handle that.
Yeah, at least that one, we have a bond on, so. And they need to put more trees in anyway, so.
Okay, any more discussion on landscaping or screening at this point? Seeing none, I'd like to move on to my second item. Under the stormwater management and mitigations for driveways per se, I think we need to limit the amount of driveway that is permitted to discharge water into to the edge of the road's drainage system. We need to require on-site stormwater management or mitigation at some point in that driveway and above to the residents. I will leave Scott to a number for that. I do know that, and I've said it before, you've all heard me say it, when we had our Mother's Day floods, I was working for the town of Bedford, and it seemed like every long driveway that went downhill to the town road destroyed all the ditch lines on the town road because of the amount of stormwater that just normally, under a normal rain, flows down and goes into the system, and systems couldn't handle it. So we have been requiring mitigation of stormwater on site on some applications, but I'd like to codify it in our development regulations so that we set a standard at 50 feet, 75 feet, 100 feet, whatever number it is recommended by the board, that at that point, anything above that that's down gradient to the town road needs to have on-site mitigation. And I don't think DPW will disagree with that.
No, but I was in not really a webinar, but it's a coalition meeting for communities in southern New Hampshire that'll have the MS4 permit this afternoon. And apparently, in late March, there was an executive order signed by the president that is going to limit municipalities' ability to police stormwater on subdivisions.
Yeah, well, that'll only be 3 more years and then it'll get reversed.
I'm just, so, in the meeting, everybody that heard about it said it was very new and they weren't familiar with exactly what it was yet, so as I find out more.
Okay.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about driveways. They're not
That's true, yeah,
necessarily a
there's probably ways
subdivision.
around it, so,
Well, I think a certain amount of local control will still live.
yeah.
Okay, anybody have any more comments on that, or are we gonna ask Scott to go with that? Or anything you'd like to add to Scott for that subject? Okay. The last thing is, Scott, do we have bonding requirements in our development regulations, or are they somewhere else?
I thought they were in here.
They're
Yeah,
in
they're in
here.
there.
I had a couple of questions on those.
And I brought that up because I remember that the legislature changed it, that we cannot require a bond for a new road construction until
They asked for a building permit.
We
So
did
we need
change,
to- that
it's
needs-
up to date, we've changed that.
that is reflected in the new one.
It is.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's what, I wasn't aware that it was changed by the legislature.
I have
And
a
look-
question.
One last thing, we need to update the cover page too, Joanne, when this all gets squared away, because we have a lot of
Yep.
Yeah.
incorrect names on the cover page. Thank you. Kimberly?
So I noticed, well, I guess I should say first of all, just for clarity, I am an employee of Hoyle Tanner, but I did not work on these regulations. So just for the sake
You
of
don't need a
the
disclaimer.
record. So on page 90, where are we? No, sorry, 69, it's wetland protection, and it's discussing the relief from the WSWC, so it looks like it's B2. It seems like that this is old language. If you recall, we added a list of things in the zoning ordinance a couple years ago, it's in 22, that added more discussion about what the wetland does. And so maybe the fix in 2 is just to confirm that they need to address 13.3.4, because that's where that specific list of, are they prime wetlands, are they within the designated river, are they within endangered species habitat, the one that I created. So I think that if we added 13.3.4 into 2, then that would make sure that they look at that and address, because the other answer is copy all of that text into here.
Okay,
So we could do it one way or the other.
okay.
Which one was that, on 95, 96, 98, or 96?
I'm sorry, I'm on page 69.
69, or, okay.
Yeah.
At the very top, the
Yeah,
Roman numeral
okay,
2.
okay.
Yeah.
And that was, what am I making a note about that? That's relief from the,
From the outer buffers, right?
okay. relief.
Instead of just 13.3.
Does anybody else have something they'd like to bring forward for discussion regarding the development regulations?
Yeah, I had two
Please,
things.
Phil. Forward.
They were added in red, so I'm assuming these were added in by either Scott or Joanne.
What's the
I didn't
page
get-
number?
Must be
Page
Joanne. I
46
didn't-
and page 49. One is number 6, roads and utility construction may start without a bond. However, a bond for infrastructure, including roads and utilities, must be in place prior to sale of any parcel or an application for a building permit for structures. Now, is that what you were referencing, Tim, that you can't do that anymore? Because
The legislature put that, codified it in law, that that's the procedure. In other words, if someone wants to build a brand new road, we can't say you have to post a bond.
Right. Well, there was a reason why we had the.
But I'm sure they have to post a driveway bond, right? Or edge of road bond of some kind to access the town road? Because otherwise they could damage the town road getting on and off the road and we'd have no,
We didn't,
We don't
do-
have that for
Well-
driveways.
then I think we should ask Scott to look at that too with his staff.
The other thing though, in that, because we've had issues in the past where somebody puts sprinklers in the right of way.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Right, but we tried to address that so in the beginning, and I didn't know if that language was in here.
I don't think we'd ever be able to enforce a development regulation on someone doing sprinklers because they already have a home and they're
No.
living in it.
Tim, that's not the issue.
Oh.
The issue is, then they come to the town, and they want the town to replace their sprinklers because they got damaged by the plow or something. This has been the problem, but we specifically eliminated the problem by making it a point before the road got accepted by the town, that there had to be be verified that there was nothing in the right-of-way.
Well, you could do that, Phil, but under the RSA, the town owns the land to the bounds, and the town everybody does a driveway at their own risk. They put a driveway culvert in, they put a driveway in with a permit at their own risk, therefore they're responsible to clean their own culvert, maintain their own culvert. That's an RSA. The mailbox, you put there at your own risk. So the sprinklers should be in the same breath as anything you put in the town right of way, you put it at your own risk. They don't allow them to put stone walls in the town right of way because they oppose a legal, a legal way for someone to sue the town because they got hurt running into something on the edge of the road that the town permitted that wasn't there before.
I'm only bringing it up because we had issues with it
Well,
before.
I would take a suggestion from you on how to handle it then.
What we had, this goes back quite a while.
Yeah.
I've been off the board for a long time, but
Yeah.
we had the issues, and the problems that we ran into was because the town accepted the road with those things in the right-of-way.
Oh, I remember what the.
So.
You remember it, don't you?
So we're telling DPW staff, and it's not a development regulation, is it, Bill?
Not that I'm aware of.
So then it should be a DPW staff inspection before the road is accepted, when they walk the road, to accept the road, to make sure nothing is in the right of way that's not supposed to be there, and let DPW handle it.
But my recollection is that we had language somewhere in there with the developers when they first came in.
In what, in our development regulations?
No. It might have been in with the bond, when we took the road bond.
There's something in here about not constructing anything in the town right away, so.
Well, I think that's something that,
Part of that had to do with when roads got accepted and what was really being looked at and.
I call that a selectmen's issue, Phil, not a planning board issue.
I think most of the time those sprinklers go in after the fact too. So
Yeah.
like,
Well, there's a lot of-
Acorn's gonna get built. I highly doubt that builder's gonna put irrigation in
It's
the
not
single
necessarily
family
the
lots.
builder, it's the property owner. We've had that, and it goes back when Megan was,
Phil, I don't doubt the veracity of your story, but I don't think it's a planning board issue.
It's not an issue we can control.
Okay.
The plan's already been approved. It's somebody coming in, it's like when you hire somebody to come in and do work. If you sort of expect them to know what the permit requirement is and.
only reason I was bringing it up because we also had issues where we would accept a subdivision, and then the residents would come into the Board of Selectmen requesting stop signs. And now the town had to pay for the stop signs, and what we did was we changed it so that the stop signs will be put in during the,
Right, yeah.
because it was a development issue. So the developer paid for the stop signs rather than the taxpayer.
Phil, you could have Public Works craft a condition of approval for all subdivision plans that states that no sprinklers, stone walls, or anything may be constructed within the town of right-of-way prior to the final approval, otherwise it will be denied, or something.
Why don't we
to that
just put it as a condition of plan approval?
Yeah, I just said, a condition of approval.
Well,
for
I
a
mean,
plan.
TPW doesn't need to do it.
No, but he has to draft the language for it,
Oh,
because
okay.
it's his
Okay.
thing.
Oh, okay, that's what you meant.
Yeah. You can state obvious, based on the RSA, Scott, driveway culverts, you should, and mailboxes are the only thing too that are permitted in the right of way at your own risk. And it's in the, if you read the RSA, that's what it says in the RSA.
Yeah.
Because mailboxes are a federal issue, that's the reason.
Yeah, they're also, you don't,
I understand, but that's a different issue.
The location of mailboxes needs to be approved in development approvals.
no, that's a problem, Barbie, because I dealt with that because the Postal Service tells you how far the mailbox has to be from the edge of the
I get,
pavement.
but we
Yeah, I think it
have,
can't be further than like 20 inches
But
from
all I'm saying is,
the
even
curb.
with the,
I understand that, but there
That's why
needs
they
to
all
be.
get hit by plows.
no, that's
Because-
not the only reason.
Well, because there's an issue with the sidewalk plows in some developments because of where the mailboxes are. So it
Yeah.
needs to be considered in conjunction with sidewalk approval.
Well, if the mailman is gonna be delivering mail to a subdivision that has a sidewalk, we need to require that there's a 4-foot grass panel between the curb line and the sidewalk, which gives a place to put a mailbox and allows for sidewalk construction to be made so the sidewalk can be kept clear. You need to have a grass panel between the curb line and the sidewalk. You cannot put the sidewalks up against the curb line like we see all over town.
Who's gonna mow that?
I thought that the
that's
mailboxes were all
not-
put on
No.
one side of the street without the sidewalks.
That's the post office, that's not us. Post office will tell you which side it has to be on.
I
And then
thought
you'll
it
get
was-
the people that will complain that their mailbox has to be on the other side of the road.
Right.
Or the people that complain that the neighbors is on their property and it really.
Oh,
Not if it's, not if it's in the right of
I
way.
met one of those people.
This is all stuff that when you work in DPW, you deal with it all the time. Mailboxes are a big P in the A. Because you know, the plow truck drivers can be very careful, but in a whiteout snowstorm, they get hit.
So does this board wanna require a grass panel if we're requiring
Well,
sidewalks?
we need to have a place to, because you cannot have mailboxes.
I just wanna make sure everyone's on board. I like the idea.
People are gonna maintain the grass panel themselves.
I would hope so.
They will, because it's in front of their property.
Not everyone will.
Think about
Well,
some
then,
people's
then the
property.
grass can grow 3 feet. I don't care how high the grass grows. I care about the mailbox not being hit by the sidewalk plow.
But is this something that gets corrected with the development regs?
No, well, maybe with the road.
Well, we
regulations.
could make a requirement that when requiring sidewalk in, I would say probably certain zoning districts, because I couldn't imagine I don't know, I guess
Well,
the
if you
village,
don't-
in the village you could, but there's.
If you don't want a
certainly no-
sidewalk panel, then require that the sidewalks be 6 feet wide. And the mailbox can be in the first 12 inches of the sidewalk, behind the curb, and the rest of it still allows for the plow to go by. Set a sidewalk
Thank-
width.
I think we do have a sidewalk.
You can increase it to include mailboxes,
what we-
which is what DPW does now when there's a mailbox like that. They do a little pavement behind it, so the plow can sneak around behind it. That's how they fix the problem.
Yeah, we're doing a little bit of that on Mass right now, around the million
they
utility
are.
poles.
Yeah.
You gotta take the telephone pole out of the road.
Well, we did get,
Let's not get off topic.
where is that?
H, there's this 73 sidewalks.
You're looking for a minimum width.
Well, I guess I'm just trying to figure out if
What
this
is
is
your
something we
width
need
right
to
now
put
in the
in
regulations,
here.
Scott?
That's what I'm looking for, I don't remember.
I have
So
not put
think-
sidewalking in the last 5 years at my
think we-
job,
I
where
think
we
we
don't do less
bumped it
than
up.
5 feet. 5 feet is the absolute minimum for sidewalks.
Well, we've got roadway design
Page
standards.
78.
78, thank you. For sidewalks.
Under 4 feet unobstructed width?
See, that's too narrow.
Storefront sidewalks shall be 12 feet in
Yeah,
width.
storefront, that's a different subject.
Sidewalks shall be constructed with DOT standard specs.
Scott, you need to change that 4 feet unobstructed width.
Well, no, so public and potentially publicly maintained sidewalks shall be sufficiently wide to provide a minimum of 6 feet of unobstructed width. So it says 6-foot width. Except areas for signs, poles, streets, trees, and other objects which shall provide a minimum of 4 foot. So this is ADA requirements. So the 6 foot is what we're saying the sidewalk needs to be, but then we're requiring a minimum of 4 feet where there's sign, poles, street trees, or other objects.
We're not requiring trees be planted on the curb line, are we, Scott?
No, it's not typically, I don't know.
Because they lift all the sidewalks and wreck all the sidewalks.
Yeah, I mean, I
Okay,
don't,
I'm just
I
making
don't
sure
s-
that's not in there.
I don't see any of the development project, well, no, I was gonna say woodland, but those trees are on the back of the sidewalk, and that's private anyway.
They would have to be on the back.
Yeah.
So, and that really should
But now that I'm
say,
thinking about that, 4 feet's not wide enough for our sidewalk
No, it's
plow.
not.
yeah, which shall provide that there remains a minimum of,
That number needs to be changed to 5, Scott, at a minimum.
Yeah, our sidewalk plow will fit through 5, so.
So it's a minimum of 6 feet of unobstructed width, excepting for areas bloody blah, in which case
Shall provide a minimum of.
shall provide that
5.
there remains a minimum of 5 feet of obstructed width.
However you want to word it, but 5 is a better number than 4.
Well, we all understand what we're talking about. If you didn't, that last part of the sentence didn't make any sense.
I have a question on sidewalks.
Phil?
Down further on, D, B, I, concrete sidewalks shall be treated with water repellent in accordance NHDOT specifications, section 534. Is that water repellent an additive to the concrete, or
No,
is?
it's a.
coating they put on after?
Yeah, it's silicone, siloxane, it gets
All
put
right, it's
on
just that
after
it's-
a certain amount of cure time.
Is that the place, though, to have it, when you say treated, it seems to me that the next one, 2 below it, concrete sidewalk shall utilize 6x6 welded steel wire fabric. That portion is is the construction of the sidewalk. The water repellent being referred to is not an additive in the concrete. It's added after the sidewalk is cured.
Do you want to switch those?
Well, I don't know, I'm just bringing it up, it just seems that's out of place.
Well, it's not even a sidewalk, because they allow pavement for sidewalks, bituminous
Yeah,
sidewalks,
so basically
which you don't treat, you only treat the,
we only want concrete where the
ADA
88
compliant.
tip downs are.
Well, then why
We
don't you
use
just
so much
switch it?
salt that concrete doesn't do well.
No, I realize that, but why don't you just switch it, because
I
the
can
water
switch it,
repellent is applied after it's cured. So it should not be before the.
And I think.
Joanne, you know what we should do? We should throw a copy of this up on SharePoint so we can both make edits and they'll be
Okay.
in one document.
Okay,
Do you want me to do that?
sure.
Okay.
And then I'll,
Can you send me the newest one, because I still have the old one?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Can we set a deadline to because I feel like we could certainly.
This is what happens every
Worry
time we
every
start
time. We never
working
get
on
that
this.
done.
It's not everybody's looked at everything, we
well,
start.
basically, we just got this back, right? This is the first time we've really, how long have we had this in our hands, Barbara?
Oh, for a while.
A couple weeks.
Couple weeks, and it was at Hoyle Tanner for how long? 3 years?
Well, we've had
The
lots
large
of
portion of that, it
rounds
was
of,
us
we've
in-house
had
doing
it for a
some
while.
stuff.
I would say that we should give ourselves a month to work on it before we have a vote on it.
Oh, right.
And at the end of the month, we'll do something on it. We'll vote on it at the end of the month.
There is a point on page 81, sorry, glasses,
Please?
that, what we were talking about, 81, number 12. There shall be no permanent structures, fences, walls, lampposts, or irrigation systems at or below finished grade within the right-of-way, so.
It's already there.
Right, so the
I knew
discussion
I
about
had
that
read
is
something
there.
about it.
Thank you for finding
reminding
that.
me.
Yeah.
I just have one other question on that. And Scott, did you do these additives, this red line, the red?
I did not do those. I don't have those in mind.
Page
Those must be newer ones that Joanne added, which is why my page number.
What page you on,
What
Phil?
page are you on?
49, 5, it's in red, been added in.
Yeah.
You haven't seen that? Yeah, take a look at it.
We're clearly coming back to this, so let's just figure out what we need to look at, and Scott needs to
Okay.
look at page 49, number 5.
And then 51, is there something that we need to
I don't
discuss
even have that one, Phil.
for 51?
Oh, it could be this one, right?
No. I don't think so.
This is the newer one, isn't
I don't know which version Phil's in right now.
it? I think he's.
The
in
latest.
newer.
Yeah, I think
Oh.
we need to have a discussion on page 51 change.
Yeah.
Page 49 is another one of the changes
51.
that was when the RSA changed about the bonding. That was changed
So
as well.
that's the requirement.
Yeah.
Okay, because I wondered about the 90 days of final sign off. That's for the statute. Okay, so 51.
Do we dare discuss curbing? Because we've had a lot of applicants come in complaining that the price of granite curbing has been too expensive for them to afford for their projects, and they're asking for a waiver to use bituminous curbing.
I can ask for a waiver.
Excuse me?
I ask for a waiver.
Fine.
Yeah, and I prefer it only on private sites.
Except that the town puts it on all the town roads, so I think we have to have a standard for the town and for the planning
I
department.
don't, I disagree. I think that what happened on Elm Street was unconscionable,
There you
but,
go.
you know, that's the
So if
requirement.
we're gonna, if we're gonna permit the town, through the Board of Selectmen and whoever the governing body is, to allow asphalt side curbing for town-owned roads, we cannot, in good conscience, force a developer to put granite curbing on a town road.
First of all, conscious has nothing to do with it. Second of all, what the town does is largely driven by budgets. And if the town votes for a default budget, and DPW needs to do roads that need to be constructed, like last year with Pinardville, which was a big to-do after the default budget, they've got to allocate their resources accordingly. And if you've got developers coming in here to develop these houses, that the Board of Selectmen at one point did an assessment that said, oh, these big new houses are not costing the town anymore, they're bringing in more tax money than they bring. People who are buying $400,000, $800,000 houses probably want granite curbing, and that's a development decision. I am not saying that I
I
agree.
respectfully disagree that we should have a double standard.
It's not a question of a double standard. A town doesn't even have to come in for approval from the planning board for a building.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that if we're gonna tell a developer that they have to put granite curbing in, and they don't have a choice, then they're gonna come back and say, well, how come the town does it on their own roads? It's gonna be a town
It's
road
an
anyway.
immaterial,
You know, well, I would
It's in-
vote against it.
The only note is here on page 75. Curbing shall be installed on all proposed roadways, location and style shall be reviewed by town staff and approved by the planning board.
Okay,
So it doesn't dictate the style.
but we've always told them they have to use it.
why doesn't it? What happened to that? It was granite.
There was a reason for it,
What was it, Phil? Tell us.
several reasons. Because bituminous ones get chewed up by the plows.
Yeah?
And if the developer comes in, they'd always want bituminous ones because they're cheap. They get destroyed, and then they were put in, the town would wind up putting in, either replacing them or putting them in with granite. Because we went to granite, and this very question that you're bringing up, okay? I remember when I first was on a Board of Selectmen, it was 3 members, okay? And that same subject had come up, and my position was exactly yours.
And there is one last
There must be
thing.
another section where that's.
There is
covered.
one last
only
thing
place I
regarding
see
the
it.
two
What
types of
page is
curbing.
that?
Sorry, that was page 75 under the notes.
Yeah,
Wherever you put bituminous curbing, people can jump the curbing and drive in their front yards with their vehicles,
68.
which
That's
is
another
against,
reason.
which is against the rules. You do not see people jumping granite curbing to park their RV in the front yard or their kids' 4 extra cars. Now we only have 1 parking space per unit.
Thank you.
And curb cuts are specific with granite.
Right. Okay.
So do we want to keep that note in and have it be a case-by-case basis?
I think it should be granite, as Barbara stated. I think we should specify granite. They can ask for a
I
waiver
agree.
to get
I'm
away
fine with
from it.
specifying granite. I don't remember why we changed that, because I think it used to be granite.
We did.
It used to always be granite.
Yeah, it's always been
I
granite.
don't ever remember changing that with her.
Well, then
Well,
we
it
need
wasn't
to,
always.
That's why I thought maybe
I
it's in
remember.
another
it needs to be
section.
reinserted as granite curbing is required.
It could have been the kind of thing that she picked up as in comparison to other towns.
Yeah.
Okay?
The other thing, I know we talked about sidewalks, Scott, it's sidewalks are in that table of standards under 74. That's also the 6-foot in residential and 12-foot in commercial areas. So if we change it, that's under that table of roadway design standards on page 74.
Yeah, page 74 for the sidewalk.
table.
It's in the table, right? Which letter is it in the table?
It is X. There's nothing in this table about curb material, it's only curb radii.
Do we still have granite bounds in there?
I'm sure it
The
is.
granite
do.
bounds are still in there. Front bounds have to be granite, and the rear.
See, it's easy to show them where the edge of their lot is when there's a granite bound in the middle of their lawn.
So what we want the table on X
Stay
to
on your
say
side of your
6 on all 3, basically, and then the 12 would be kind of a different situation. maybe add another note, a quick note.
I don't understand, why do we need to change X, Kimberly?
We were just discussing it, I just
Uh.
wanted to make sure if we changed it, that the X was consistent.
And I think it is as
Yeah,
it's written.
because
Okay.
then the other portion just says that they
With the exception
can
for
narrow down
obstructions.
when there's an obstruction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything else to add to this discussion tonight?
We were going to go back to that note that talked about the release.
Page 51. Yes, I have a couple of things after this.
Where, the section that's written in red, Joanne?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So when a subdivision or a site plan has a bond in place and they're ready to finalize their project, sometimes the planning board doesn't meet, especially if a meeting's been canceled, then it's a month out wait time before they can come back and have the monies from the escrow account refunded to them, if there are monies left over. So we thought Scott does the homework as far as to make sure that everything was finished and coordinates with the inspecting engineering firm and has already figured out, what the money would be for those certain types of projects. So he comes up with the applicant actually comes up with the bond money, his engineer, and then Scott reviews it to make sure it's the right amount. So we're pretty involved with the whole thing. So we thought rather than having the applicant wait for another planning board meeting, if we were able to just agree on accepting the money,
So,
It just would seem
so
to
this,
make more
so what you're
sense.
talking about is releasing a bond?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say accept the bond. So basically, it's like this, between Scott and the engineering firm for the applicant, they've come up with the amount of the bond, but yet we as staff can't approve the acceptance because planning board has to do that in our current regulations. So we always have to wait for a meeting in order to do that,
So this is, so what you're talking about, which I did not get at all from this, is the posting of a bond when work on the site is not completed in order that occupancy permits may be issued.
Correct. So say as an example, they're
We got it, we
they're
know
in the
it.
middle of the winter and they want to get their occupancy and they
They don't
obviously
have the
can't
top
do the
coat down, they
landscaping.
don't have this, they don't
So,
have.
right.
We got it. All right, so that's not what this says. This needs to be, that was sort of, so are we talking an escrow account or a bond?
It could be either, depending on what they want to do.
Okay, so it's either.
Is this the report from?
So, for the two of you to accept a bond or escrow account in an amount equal
To the,
to the money needed to complete work for full compliance with the plan,
any outstanding items.
for full compliance with the plan as calculated by the DPW director, that amount as calculated by the
Well, he doesn't calculate it, he checks it. So the calculation is provided by the engineering firm. And then Scott checks it to make sure it's accurate.
as approved by
By the- yeah.
DPW.
Correct.
And isn't that usually because the developers have just sort of screwed up and they want everything so last minute and it's the end of the month and we don't have a meeting and they come in here and they need a certificate of occupancy? I mean, I'm not trying to, how often is this really an issue?
It's come up several times.
I mean, we never change the amount of the bond you propose.
No, and since I've been here, you haven't denied one either. I don't know.
No, since I've been here, you haven't.
So Joanne, I want to read your last sentence. To accept monies from an escrow account in order for the applicant to obtain a CO without approval of the planning board. Doesn't the planning board generally have these kind of things brought before us, and we are the ones that vote on allowing it? You're taking that power away from the board and putting it on you and Scott?
We're asking you to change the regulations to
I
allow
disagree
that
with
to
that.
happen.
Yeah, I disagree with
So
that.
so that the owner of whatever project doesn't have to wait until a planning
The
board.
owner can come into a meeting, we have them twice a month. They know when they know when they want to get their stuff done, they know in plenty of time. It shouldn't be at the last minute walking into the counter and trying to establish an account over the planning table. No, I think it should stay the way it is myself.
I mean, we have C1 and 2, and well, 1, 2, and 3, so it's on page 46, glasses, that discuss the acceptance or partial release of. So that's the process, shall be determined by the planning board. Right.
No, that's a release.
That's release of the bond or
That's not the establishment of
escrow.
it.
Oh, sorry.
But it's,
So,
the
let me-
header's wrong then,
Right.
because the header says acceptance of security.
And then one says release.
It's almost like 1 and 2 should switch again. So we
Okay,
do
that'll be
try to
changed.
pound it into the heads of the developers at the pre-con meeting that any incomplete work needs to be bonded prior to CO. So I get where you're coming from. It's frustrating from our standpoint, because they hound us about this type of stuff. So I think that's why Joanne is requesting this. I'm perfectly fine with keeping it the way it is. It's annoying.
Do you
but
have
it's
them
something
sign?
that- Yeah.
Do they sign a pre-con meeting
Yes.
document? They agree to all the terms of the pre-con meeting? Do you
Yeah,
have that in
so,
writing?
yeah, we actually, so I've been using this draft one. If you go toward the end, we have a few different versions of it. Because actually the
Page
one, that-
113?
my numbers are different, but which one do you have there?
Pre-con meeting record.
Appendix L
Yeah,
is
so that's all other
116.
subdivisions and site plans with no road. So they all have like different scenarios. So then like
Oh, I
here's a
see.
subdivision with private road. And
Gotcha.
then we have one. So I'm pretty sure this does go over, so here's one with future town road.
Do you have a color printer at the highway department?
Yep.
Good. Well, then, the line that says that all items must be taken care of by a certain date, put that line in red, so when they sign it, they can't say that they didn't see it.
Either that or bold.
Whatever you wanna do, but highlight that one line in a different color. I don't care. Because, you know, the thing is that you say that it would streamline the process, which I agree with. However, this board makes all the decisions and all this stuff. And when they wanna come back and they want to get away with something that they didn't do in time, I think the board has to have the final say on it. My opinion. You guys can vote any way you please. All right.
Well, Scott seems okay with it, so.
Whatever you guys wanna do.
You have another one, Kendall?
Yes, I do.
Please.
So,
Another day in the office, right?
It's, look at, how about that? Page 92, we do have center circles requirements, but for open space. So this is all under open space, if anybody wants to take a look at it. And then also, I guess, so page, starting on 89, says open space development, this may change. Do we, I mean, for the purposes of getting these things done and like,
We need to just leave
Yeah.
it as it
This could be
is.
something you
Yeah.
work with.
right,
It's already in our docs,
Hmm.
okay?
yeah, I mean, it could
But
be.
this is only for open space development.
Doesn't matter,
right?
you can slide it right over
But
the
that's what
regular
I'm saying,
plan.
should it be like all encompassing for site plans and others? Well, I guess other subdivisions we don't.
You can move it over there if you
It's,
want.
I mean, it's talking about the depth of it, it doesn't,
Buffer.
it might be just a good idea to take a look at it as a comparison.
It might
It's
be
not,
an easy way to,
Find a way to get it done.
it's not an actual, for a landscaping plan,
yeah,
it's for a
it's,
buffer.
because the open space is all about buffers and it's a whole different development. All right, I have a couple of things that I would like to address before we go, so people know and we can get through this. So I am working off this copy that was sent to us. Page 31, Class 6 roads, because I went through the changes and it talked about the fact that, copy that was highlighted, that of course cut major additions unique to the draft. Change of use standards are in this draft. Sump pump and pool discharge, paper street development, class 6 road development, detailed TRC procedures, new submission checklists. We just saw the new submission checklists at the back, big improvement. Detailed TRC procedures, I didn't actually get a chance to review those. Change of use, I don't think I actually found it. It was very hard for me to track these changes. So I'm gonna go through what I was able to find.
What page you want?
Well, I'm gonna start on page 31 of what was mailed to us. It said, development of a property on a class 6 road requires, what is a property? So property is not defined in this. So it was unclear to me when you look at the standards, because some of them are talking about existing houses or a lot.
Property is the lot.
Okay, so that needs, so it's a lot or a lot with a structure?
It's
Because,
just, it could be either, it's the lot itself.
okay, so I'm not sure it flows very well, because then it talks about, you should be saying improving the class 6 road for access to the property, because that's where it starts to get confusing. You don't know whether you're talking about a whole thing or a particular lot. So that was my
Are you
comment.
staying on class 6 for a minute?
I was gonna move on in the interest
Well,
of time,
I
but
just-
if you wanna pause.
I just wanted to ask about the new legislative action that says that any development on a class 6 road only requires the selectmen to be in favor of it.
I
That's
think
the
we have to
RSA.
have a specific policy adopted, isn't that how it's
Yeah,
written?
and we don't, so we go back to the way we've been doing it
Yeah.
unless they come up with a policy.
Okay, all right, so
Thank you.
so that's how that's gonna be handled, all right. And again, this is not complete, I was trying to work off the things that were there, where are all my folded pages, because that's what I was keeping track. Now, I don't remember why I had that folded. Oh, appendices, because I couldn't find, didn't make a lot of sense when I was looking at some of this stuff. Page 65, back to class 6. I wasn't sure, and I was just trying to put this together because I know we're trying to get this through. I don't want to run into this situation that we have now where we address something in one section and then it appears in another section, because then we end up over time with it not being the same. So I'm not sure why it's in nearly the same, but not exactly the same here in an appendix as compared to in the actual development reg. Because I'm not sure that it's really any different. It almost seems to me it should be all in the actual development reg as compared to in the appendix. And this appendix was general, so I don't know what the structure of the new one was, but, you know, this is where like monuments are and that kind
Design,
of.
it's the chapter is design, I mean, the appendix is design standards. That's what it's titled, anyway.
So what is, this has, I don't understand why this has to do with design standards. So and it's nearly the same as what's in the previous, but not exactly the same. Because it talks about an applicant shall submit an application to the select board and request comments from the planning board before they take any action. Before who takes any action?
The selectmen.
Well, that to me isn't clear, and we come back to, are we required to provide comments on this? Because the planning board wants to review the application to provide comments to the select board, and they never pay any attention to us. So, is that part of this? Just check to make sure that that's part
You're
of the statute.
required until and if they ever come up with a separate policy. And then they may change the requirements.
Okay. And is this improvements to drainage and surface repairs also require select board approval, what we currently do? Because I didn't know that they ever required any. I can't recall a class 6 road approval that had any detail for anything in it.
The only one that
That's
did,
fair.
that I know of, was the Kennedy Hill Road one, where that guy built, and Scott had put a list together of what he was looking for, and that list did go to the select board, but they did not include it in their
Don't get me
approval
going. All right.
for that particular
Okay,
application.
page 66.
That list had existed before I was even here because someone else had already tried to develop up there a different
Oh, it
time.
did exist?
So yeah, so I just,
Copied it?
Okay.
Well, I worked with
Number
Eric,
3
but-
at the top of the page, don't
What
talk
page
anymore about
number?
that, because I'll just.
What
my
page
blood
number
pressure
are
will
you
go
on?
through the roof. Page 66, number 3, it's a typo, 67441. Change of use. Okay. What is a change of occupancy/use permit?
Wait a minute, let me just write this down here. Okay. Where are you? Change of use, which number?
Number 2.
No change of occupancy use permit shall be issued by the town administrative officer.
When does that kick in?
It is determined that the proposed expanded use would not be in violation.
we don't have a change of use.
Yeah,
permit in
that,
town, do we?
so what is this?
Maybe they did at one time, but we don't.
I've never heard of such a thing in this town, and I've been pretty involved for a few years.
We were
So it
talking
was
about
determined
change of
that
use
the
the other day too,
proposed-
weren't we, Joanne?
Yeah.
And needing to
Yeah,
define it.
grasshoppers.
Okay, that's what it was, alright.
Until it's determined that the
So
proposed
what the heck
expanded
is
use would
this?
be
I don't take a formal action on that, by the way.
I don't
Well,
know.
It's never too late to change, Barbara.
That's what I keep telling
Today,
myself.
tomorrow's a new day,
Exactly.
okay?
So if we take it out, we have to renumber all the other sections.
Well, that brings me up to a thing that the table of contents and the page numbers don't match. So that's a whole nother conundrum, but we're not done, so don't bother looking at it.
Oh no, is that broken, Joanne? It should update.
Yeah, it's,
I didn't do anything to it, but
It might-
I'm sorry I brought it
Just
up.
didn't update it.
It might need like a right
yeah.
click, cause I think it's probably because you added some stuff.
probably. So are you saying to remove this section?
No, I would like to know what it is. Did somebody have a
change of use
vision that
section.
they haven't explained to me
Well,
yet? I'm all about
Scott and
vision.
I were talking at one point about how we don't really have like a good definition. And I
I
tried
think
looking
we're
for
somewhat
one.
familiar with that issue recently on this board.
I tried looking for one for other towns and I couldn't find anything
But
out
this
there.
isn't new since then, right? Since our
No,
conversation?
no.
I didn't think
But,
so.
but a change of use sometimes happens when, you know,
Okay, so
someone
you can
comes
stop.
in.
We know, we're a planning board. Number 3 starts to go into those changes. I'm just looking at the time and trying to get through this. And I'm the only one who brought this up, so I don't want to waste everybody's time too long. So you have in number 3 what looks like some requirements, and then I'm not sure that 3A, a technical review committee meeting is required for change of use applications. Again, we have no change of use applications, but it's not an A. Regardless of if we are to do this and have this, that's not where it belongs.
Barbara, very briefly on change of use, Joanne and I met with Derek on this subject. Derek says we do not have anything in our language that specifically grants the director any authority to do anything, so the planning board, he said, needs to take an official action and have a motion and a vote and come up with an official program for what constitutes a change of use and who has the authority to make that decision, whether it's staff or whether it's the planning board, and we have to have some written standard for Joanne to follow, which we have not done yet because we've been busy with 100 other things.
I understand that, but I think that the instance in question was dealt with fairly easily by whether or not a site plan is in place. And we've always had a rule in this town that if we change anything that's pre-existing, that they need to have a site plan. And
This is
who are
what
the
Derek,
ball?
this is what Derek
I
instructed me
understand.
and Joanne to work on with the planning board to come up with definitive policies, have a vote on it, a motion and a vote, and submit it to Derek for review, and then we're gonna go from there.
Why would we?
Because he
Don't
is-
even get me going. All right.
He's the one that
He's like the
instituted it,
president,
Okay.
local.
instigated it. Instituted it, instigated
Could I
it.
be a queen?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
All right. So this looks like it's an attempt to deal with that, but I'm not sure it does. If we're going to deal with it, that's fine, but this is a lead-in without a path to get there. So we need to sort of figure that out. And I would just comment as to C, for C, proposals for change of use review must include the following information. And this all came from Holt Tanner, not staff. A scaled plan of the property, I think that brings up the issue of, I'm assuming that this was the proposed use of the property in C that we're talking about, because I think there needs to be some recognition that we need to know whether or not there's a plan of what was the last approved use of the property or an approved site plan. So somehow that needs to get flushed out. And H is where we see the TRC pop up.
Dale Moano.
So,
That was his name. Remember he had his driveway.
I think A becomes its own,
And we were required to-
3A saying a TRC meeting is required becomes its own thing. And then how it acts is under 4H, all right? But this, I was very confused how I got
There's an
there.
awful lot of mud there.
Yeah, they trenched up the.
Again, paper streets, paper streets on the next page, 67. I don't know that I've ever seen this, that the applicant will request a conceptual discussion with the select board to gauge project support, before submitting a formal request.
Any place I know, paper streets is on the mountain, Barbara, right?
There's some.
No, there are other paper streets around.
Oh, yeah, there's a few in Bernardville, yeah, you're right about that.
There are also other places.
So we had one recently by the
And
Circle
then-
Club.
I remember.
And then it says, they obtain select board approval before applying to the planning board, and then it said the planning board reviews the application to provide the comments for the select board. So,
It's a little circle.
I'm not, and again, so this would be sort of, it's not written this way, but this would be like a class 6 road. They come here, there's a class 6 road application, it comes to the planning board, we give comments, we send them to the board of selectmen, the selectmen ignore it, approve the class 6 road request, and then under this, it looks like it would then come back to us for final approval. That's sort
Well,
of,
is it class 6 or paper streets?
no, that's paper streets.
Well,
This-
paper streets are not class 6 roads.
I understand that, but the process is sort of
Similar.
this comment to the selectmen and then back.
Well, I think they're two different cases, so they probably would be dealt with differently.
Well, paper road and class 6 are
I
not
think,
as different
I
as
think the
people.
RSA outlines each procedure.
Okay,
I can look that
so,
up.
so that needs to be checked. And I think, sump pumps and pools, do we have this right now, Scott? Because I see sump pumps and stuff running all the time, all over the
I
place.
believe we added it because of issues we're having.
Okay, all
They
right.
have- I
We
think-
do have enforcement, well, I say enforcement, we have RSAs on our side that you can't direct water into, excuse me, into the road. So I think we just added it in there to make sure it was.
Okay, I'm not gonna say any more, I had a
I
question.
think the DPW's accommodated those by allowing people to take a permit and cut into the side of the catch
Yeah.
basin and pump in directly into the catch basin.
The
Right.
select
Not
board
pump
actually
onto the
gives
surface.
those drain licenses, or they
Yeah.
can.
Okay,
They've provided a
I mean, I see them, I
remedy
don't
for
know how many, some I'm sure are permanent and some are not. Okay, that's all I have for now.
I have one more comment then.
Go ahead, Kimberly.
Page 35, got glasses. Item number 50, wetland delineations in accordance with section VIIIS is the wrong reference. It looks like that's been moved to appendix A.
Yeah, then someone pointed out already.
Just double check that. It is S under appendix A.
Okay.
And then I forgot what page it was on, but there was a reference about Mylars. Do we still use Mylars?
Yeah.
All right, just curious.
I'll take a
I can't
Mylar.
believe we still use paper.
So I guess I was just looking at, so here it's 50 and 51. So it says as-built plans, and then number 2 on page 51 also says as-built plans, and they're not matching. I would assume that those should have been the same, so 2 Mylars, 2 papers, and electronic files. And then over here, it says all submittals of paper. I guess this is trying to clarify maybe the digital version, but just
You know why
double
this
check the
paper?
language in those two to make sure they match.
Do you wanna know why this paper? So when a resident comes in and wants to see the plan, they can give it to them over the counter and they can look at it.
Mylar's good for it.
Because you can't give them the Mylar and you can't let them go on your computer.
I asked if we could have a computer on the counter. We did not receive a
I'd ask if we could have all computers in front of our station chairs, we could have it like the Bedford Planning Board has it. That'd
Very
be
nice
nice.
too, it's beautiful.
Everything's on, all the plans are on the computers in front of everybody.
Yeah, Portsmouth.
So we'll have to, in our default budget, we'll have to find money there.
I mean,
Take it out of DPW, that's right.
Aren't any other important
We're just giving away
departments?
money.
didn't at one point we ask for stuff to be emailed to us instead of sent through the mail?
Anybody doesn't have
The
to have
whole
mail.
board has never done that, but if you would like that,
I
we can
would love
certainly
that,
I would
do
because
love
that.
that too.
I would love to bring my laptop here and search keywords
Okay.
here instead of,
Well,
Does
just
anybody
make a
else
request
want
to
that?
Plan, they'll send it to you.
Yeah, I don't ever
electronically.
want to have
I
it
thought we've
emailed to
already
me, I'm
been
happy
through
with it
that,
all being
but-
digital.
Because Richard doesn't
Okay.
want it
If you're gonna do
either. I know.
one version, why not, yeah.
Anybody else?
yeah, anything you wanna send in the mail, I will create a new email address that you can just send everything to me.
You
Okay.
do understand,
My life.
one last caveat. Derek Horn warned us about taking email on our personal emails from town business that in a right-to-know research, your town email is now searchable by someone in a right-to-know research, which is why a lot of us, including me, do not accept anything on my own personal email. I don't want anybody digging in my email. Nobody's business.
I will have to recreate and update my email.
You do that, but
Just
I'm
for
just saying,
that. Do you wanna
Derek
do the
warned us
same?
about this like 5 years ago or 8 years ago. Long time.
Just send it to our work email.
That'd be awesome, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess so.
Barbara is a time watcher like me. Does anybody have anything else to go? Because I'm pretty sure this is our last bite at this. We're gonna get solutions based on our questions, and we are going to debate solutions and hopefully vote on this within 30 days. That's my goal. 2 more meetings. Okay? Joanne, what's on the agenda for the next meeting?
We have Billy Surratt built a house on College Road, and he needs a separation of driveways. It's for a duplex. There was a house fire there. He purchased the property, put in a duplex, 2 driveways
Why are we
separated.
talking about this now?
He just wanted to know what's on the next agenda.
Well, I didn't expect the whole rundown.
Well, that's one project. And then
The Ware subdivision.
the Ware subdivision,
Because
remember
they couldn't sell
there
that
was an open
parcel to,
space
I think they're
to-
trying to sell it
to
to
the
the
golf
golf course
course.
and they didn't want
They
it.
didn't want it, so they incorporated it into the Ware's
So
open
you see,
space
nothing's
subdivision.
changed.
So
But they
nothing's
need to
changed.
come
So that
here.
It's just informative.
No, they need to come here for a public hearing because
Okay.
the land
Alright.
that they merged into that is
Okay.
Goffstown land.
So, but we do have,
And then a
we do
And there's
have,
one more.
we do have agenda items. I don't get to cancel a meeting.
No,
No.
Okay, good.
no, then we have a fun conceptual up off of Rainbow.
We'll talk about that later, not now.
One. big
Not now.
subdivision.
We do not discuss applications unless it's their day.
It's conceptual.
Where's Rainbow?
Rainbow
Off at
is
Norman.
Norman, it's like kind of up and
All right, that's as
down.
much discussion as we're having.
The last, well, we can say the last rainbow controversy was the tower.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody have any other items for this board for tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
I didn't get an answer before you made that motion, Phil. Anybody have any other business for this board tonight? Seeing none, Phil's made the motion, anybody second it?
Yep, second.
Well, you're a fast one on that, Mark.
Yeah.
You beat Tim.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Thank you all for coming.